Sage Intacct is a world-class accounting solution. It has been designed for accountants by accountants. This native cloud software has 4 releases a year, all documented with live demos and training videos in advance. It embraces the latest technology Sage Group plc has to offer, including machine learning and connected services. It's perfect for hospitality, as it's a multi-entity shared environment, so it can cater for the complexities you often find within hospitalities, where you've got management companies operating hotels, you have opcos and propcos and comprehensive structures. We also have true consolidation as well, but I'll come on to that later. So it can facilitate a shared service centre approach where you've got accountants sitting at head office and they can process one transaction 1 minute for the Grand Hotel and Spa, and a transaction again for the Manor. And these are all transactions, so journals, invoices, payments, bank recs, and so on. All they need to do is the accountants just sit at the top level, and when they process transactions, if they go into something like accounts payable and accounts payable invoices, you can see here that if we enter into this invoice, that the transactions are stamped with the location on the line. So this is for the Grand Hotel and Spa, the next invoice might be for the Manor, and so on. It's worth just mentioning here that we also can do intercompany. So you can see this invoice here is for H and H Bancroft Wines, and we've got £600 of that being posted to the Manor, £600 being posted to the Grand Hotel and Spa. So when this is posted, it does the appropriate intercompany transactions. If you have accountants, however, and they are actually based at the hotel, as in this instance, we've got a user called Pauline Purchaser. So when she logs on, she's immediately taken into the Manor. All of my legal entities, by the way, are colour coordinated. So if I'm transacting from within the legal entity itself, I can see that straight away. I can also see that I've got a restricted menu here. So the user access permissions are deployed once, and they're then filtered everywhere, every single screen, report, transaction, and so on. So if we have a look at the purchase transactions here and go in and edit, when Pauline Purchaser processes a transaction, her location is immediately stamped with the Manor legal entity, because that's the legal entity that she belongs to. So she doesn't get the choice to attach that to the Grand and so on. However, if the user is transacting at the top level, then they can choose which transactions they want to process against each legal entity, or do an intercompany, as you've seen. What we also can accommodate in here as well is AP automation. So when you're processing an invoice, you can have invoices emailed to a queue, so accounts at, and or if you've had an invoice that is a physical copy of the invoice, you can put that through a scanner. It uses machine learning to recognize the scanned images and turn them into the metadata. So if I just double click on this one here, you can see that this is an invoice for Valley Fresco. What the system has done is actually read all of the metadata within that and created the invoice. It can send it through to email approval to GMs, so you don't have to have the invoices coming into the head office, being sent through the internal post, or scanned or attached to emails, or being lost, or in people's kind of filing cabinets. They are coming into the building, they are read, they are processed in the system, and they are emailed to the appropriate approvers. Once the email has been approved, then it actually just gets created as an AP invoice. So that invoice was for Valley Fresco. It's one that has been approved. So now if I just have a look at that invoice, so I can say where supplier name equals Valley Fresco, you can see that that's the Valley Fresco invoice here. There we go. And we also have the attachment, so we can go and have a look at the attachment at any point in time. You can see that that's the Valley Fresco invoice. So you can drill down to these attachments from things like your operating statements, drill down into the detailed transaction, open up the scanned image, and that is available to all users that have the appropriate access permissions. Whilst we're in here, we might as well talk a little bit more about the intercompany, because this is a strength for Sage Intacct. So we have 3 methods of intercompany. The first method you've seen, which is through the purchase invoices, where you can allocate and do the allocation on the line at the point of processing the purchase invoice. The second element is through an intercompany recharge. So if I just go into invoices here, you can see that I've got some intercompany invoices. So this invoice is a sales invoice that has been raised by the Grand Hotel. So the location the invoice belongs to is the Grand Hotel, but the invoice is for the Manor. So the Grand Hotel is raising a sales ledger invoice that can be emailed. You can have the full accounting documentation, the appropriate VAT treatment, and so on. When this invoice is posted, it not only creates the accounts receivable transaction against the Manor as the customer on the Grand entity, it will also create the intercompany purchase invoice on the Manor. So if I go into my purchase invoices and I have a filter on here to say just give me the intercompany bill back, so you can see then that what it's done is it's created an invoice for the Grand for the same amount, but obviously the supplier is the Grand, so the Grand needs paying for those services. And also you can see that it's the location, the Manor. The last bit of intercompany that I want to talk about is the intercompany journals. So if we just go into journal entries here and then into general ledger, you can see that we've got some intercompany journals here. So this is an example of where the Manor has incurred some F&B costs and they want to recharge at the end of the month the management company for those costs. So we're crediting the Manor and we're debiting £300 to the management company. Now this should be fine if you're in the same VAT group. If not, then you'd have to do an intercompany bill back and physically pass across an AR and an AP invoice. But you can see that the opposite side of this is the due to and the due from account. So it's one journal entry which is crediting the Manor for their costs, and then it's debiting the costs of those against the management company, and it's one single transaction. One of the other key strengths of Sage Intacct has to be the dashboarding capability. So you can see here, this is a general manager's dashboard, and I've got some interesting stuff going on here. So we have what we call performance cards. Performance cards can be based on groups of accounts. They can also show you snapshot things like, net profit, gross profit, estimated earnings before tax and amortization. You can also have things like groups of expenses. We can bring in from the property management systems what we call non-financial data, which can be used as calculations, as in here is the daily rate. So what we've done from the property management system is we've actually brought through the number of rooms sold. So we've looked at the number of rooms available, the number of rooms sold, and we've looked at the revenue that's come into those rooms, and we've worked out what the average daily rate is. We can also work out what the occupancy is. So by bringing in these non-financial data and using them as calculations that can be presented as a key performance indicator or performance card here, you can see that the smiley face is because the room rate is up from the previous month or the previous week or the previous quarter. We can also have these performance cards benchmarked against actual and budget and so on. So each user can have their own set of dashboards and performance cards. These are live, by the way, because at Percipient we advocate bringing in and automating the data from your property management systems, etc. So all of this information is live and up to date. So I can see that for the Grand Hotel and Spa. But if I wanted to have a look at see how the Manor was performing, I just click on the Manor and then apply that data. And I can see that now for the Grand Hotel and Spa and the Manor. Or what I might want to do is actually just group the two together to see how both of my properties are performing. And again, this can be by PropCo, OpCo level as well. So we can create pseudo locations by adding locations together. So if I have 5 restaurants against my 2 properties, maybe 3 in one and 2 in the other, then I can aggregate and see all of the performance in terms of hours, expenses, direct salaries, agency staff, all of that kind of stuff. I can see that for all of my restaurants, or I can see it from an individual property, or I can do comparisons against properties if I wanted to. What we also have for Sage Intacct for Hospitalities is some pre-setup based on USALI, which is the Uniform System of Accounts for the lodging industry. We have things like standard operating statement reports, P&L, group F&B reports, all of those kind of things. So I just want to focus on that for a moment. So this is a summary operating statement, which is from USALI. I can see the highlights of this within my dashboard. If I want to make it bigger, I can just hit the View All button here, and it'll say, do you want to run this for all of my hotels or an individual hotel? So if we just run it for the Grand Hotel and Spa and click on OK. Now this is actually running it in a HTML format, but it also allows me to run it in Excel, to email it as a PDF, or to schedule this. So this operating statement, or kind of expense statement, can be emailed out automatically to your GMs first thing in the morning, or after the nightly transactions have been automatically imported by Sage Intacct, because we advocate full integration. So you can see there's a number of things going on here. So we have some benchmarking. So we've got the number of rooms available, we've got the number of rooms sold, we've got the occupancy, we've got the average daily rate, we've also got RevPAR as well, which is revenue per available room. So these are some benchmarks at the top, which are quite interesting because they bring insight to the numbers below. And then we can see what the different types of revenue is for rooms, F&B, other operational departments, miscellaneous income. We can see what operating revenue is. So this is where we're looking at departmental expenses and filtering them by our department code. Remember, this is in a single report, so it's quite clever in terms of what this report writer can do. We're also looking at departmental profit, management fees, all of that good stuff. So we can see this, we can email it as a PDF, or we can just run it and view the information. So that report can be run for a single property, or what I can do is I've got the same report with a different filter on here to say I want to run this for all of my hotels. So then this will run this for both the Grand and the Manor, and it'll be able to give me a side-by-side comparison between the two hotels in a summary operating statement. So I can see how the Grand is performing, I can see how the Manor is performing, and so on. What we've got here is some conditional highlighting, which is calling out the numbers so my attention are immediately drawn to the variances. We can also do thumbs up, thumbs down, flags, and all of that kind of visual indicators. So this is a kind of dashboard. We can also do some other things on here. So we have what we call the Interactive Visual Explorer. So if I have a look on here, this is where I can now interact and work with the data and view things over a period of time, trend analysis, that kind of thing. So what we're looking at here is supplier spend over time. So I can see and do comparisons from this year to prior year. I can also annotate against this as well. So if my expenses in Q3 were higher, significantly higher than they were in 2022, then I can annotate that and say, well, actually, we had a number of weddings, we had a lot of champagne for those weddings, and so on. We can also apply filters as well. We can filter on the fly, and we can support and report on the fly as well. So there will be additional videos for this on the website, so if you have a look for those, they'll be coming out very soon. So the Interactive Visual Explorer, we also have things like property benchmarks on here as well. So this is where I'm bringing in things like guest ratings. So this is looking at last week versus this week. So the number of guests, the number of room occupied, and then I'm bringing through the average by week, so we can account in week numbers. There aren't many finance systems that can do that, but we can. So we're looking at guest rankings, so guest scores over the properties, and we can filter for an individual location or groups of locations. So if I want to just quickly filter here, I can filter for the manor as well, so we can click in and we can add those, and then we're seeing that aggregated for the manor as well. So lots of standard reports, pre-set up, integration into property management systems, bringing through various different statistics. We can also have different dashboards for different types of users as well. So this is like a group F&B manager type role, where you can see he's got general expenses, wages, costs, revenue. Also bringing in a number of covers that can be from various different EPOS systems or from the PMS system if they go into your property management system. And again, we can have a drill down and explore of things such as expenses over time for supplier spend and so on. We can also bring in information regarding other things such as various different reports. If we just look at this, I've got some time and materials coming through on here as well. So things like wages and salaries, financial controller, that kind of thing. The last thing that I want to concentrate on is the consolidation element. So if we just go into general ledger consolidation here, we can set up what we call multiple books. So this is where we can accommodate the complex structures that you find within hospitalities, where you've got different propcos owning different properties, and then you've got opcos within those, and so on. So we can set up an individual book, and we can have as many books as you want. So I've got a console north, a console south, and then they basically go into a group structure. When I set up this book, I can define which entities, legal entities, go into that book. So I could consolidate all my properties first, and then my properties could consolidate into opcos, and so on. This will automatically do the intercompany elimination, so when I run the consolidation, it will eliminate the due to and the due from. I can also eliminate other accounts as well. So I can specify the currency as well. So if I do have legal entities that are based in Europe and I want to consolidate into GBP, or I might belong to a holding company in the US and have to consolidate to a different chart of accounts in US dollars, Sage Intacct can accommodate that as well. So to run the consolidation, you just literally go into and then run consolidation. It can be done on demand and instantaneously. So I can just select these and say consolidate now, and that will be consolidating up as at the few minutes ago when I entered in a debit or credit journal. Or you can set the consolidation up to be on a recurrence where it's done daily or weekly. This just allows you then to run those operating statements at a group level, a property, a range of properties, in GBP or in a foreign currency, with all of the intercompany eliminations processed and done for you. So from a reporting perspective, when we run either the standard reports or when we run any of the financial reports, the first thing that we're asked is we say which book do we actually want to run them on. So I can say I want to run it on my group book, and then what happens is all of those transactions for all of those legal entities, a copy of them is taken and put into a group book, a group ledger with all of the intercompany eliminations done. I can report, however, including or excluding those eliminations. It's just a matter of filtering. And this is available for any standard report or any report that is generated through the financial report writer. You just say which book you want to base that on. As standard, all consolidation reports will be based on the common chart of accounts, which can be quite detailed. So the system allows you to create what we call a reporting accounts. So this just allows you to say multiple accounts into one. So I may be operating a standard chart of accounts throughout all of my legal entities, transacting with those standard chart of accounts, but how I want to consolidate might be in a UK GAAP or IFRS chart of accounts, and so on. So you just literally just specify the accounts and then the set of locations that you want to report on. I can default these to all of my hotels if I want to, and then you can literally view. And what this will do is it will report of all of those transactions. Again, if there's any balances, I can drill down into the detail. And also when I run those financial reports, if I just go into reports and financial reports, of which there are a number, if we have a look at the USLI ones, for example, and if I just go into, let's say, profit and loss consolidated by property, if I just go into the filters, one of the things that I can do is I say which report do I want to base this on. So I can have multiple books, and then I can make this as a filter really, so I can have one report and filter it every time and say run that report on the accrual book, run that report on the group book 1, group book 2, and so on. Well, hopefully this has given you a good overview of Sage Intacct for hospitality. Thank you so much for listening.